Hi and welcome to Poly Originals with Fiona Abel-Smith. For today's project I thought we'd do a fun cane, all about the curl. It gives you a really nice deep sort of rich look with some lovely curves and curls in there. I came up with the idea for this one when I started to run low on my white polymer clay, which I use for most things, and I thought, well, rather than using white in my Skinner blends, why don't you use another colour as the base colour and just make things that are going to mix and match nicely with it. So that's what I did. So we've got the cane here, and as you see there's not a single bit of white, but we have used the green as our main colour, which then links throughout the Skinner blends and creates this nice shape. Called all about the curl because, as you'll see, we put curves and curls into the cane as we go along to create this nice dynamic sort of round with just the strong diagonals in the background. Like most of my canes, don't feel you have to copy me exactly. If you just change it slightly, you'll get lots of lovely different variations. So just have fun, experiment, and don't stress about this one. This tutorial is purely just for the veneer. That's all we're doing today, just making the cane. Because you know from my previous videos, I've done loads of samples where you can make pendants, earrings, cover pens, brooches, fridge magnets, tassels, what else have I done? Phone bases, coasters, so loads of different applications for this one. So just make the cane and then do whatever else you want to do with it. So let's start by going through the equipment you need for today's session. Because all we're making is a cane, it's minimal amount of equipment. You need a polymer clay blade, I often refer to these as tissue blades. Either a small form of knitting needle or a cable needle, which this one is. This is just a 4mm, doesn't matter on the size because all we're doing is we're just using it just to round off and join together the cane slices. A small polymer clay roller is handy. This is about 1/2 inch in diameter, about 1.5 centimetres, and we're just going to use that to help curl the clay around. And then when we put our pieces together, I just usually work on a piece of baking parchment. This is the sheet that you put in the oven, but wax paper, tracing paper, anything like that, greaseproof paper, all would work well. And it's just a small square big enough to take the cane that we're going to make. Apart from that, you need a towel to work on. Pasta machine is so useful when you're doing Skinner blends, although of course you don't have to use one. You could, when I fold and say put it through the pasta machine, you could just fold and roll it with the roller instead. I usually have wet wipes and tissues to hand just to keep my hands and equipment nice and clean. When we're reducing our cane, I will use a measuring sheet to get the right size, and I use this one, www.printablepaper.net. This is freely downloadable. I use the inch one, but you can get it in centimetres, and this is the 4 squares to 1 inch, and I simply laminate it so I can use it multiple times. And lastly, when your piece is finished, when you've decided what you're going to make with it, if you are going to bake, then don't forget to always tent your piece in aluminium foil to protect the clay should the oven spike. So let's move on to the clay we need for today's project. For today's project we're using Fimo Soft, but all well-known brands of polymer clay will work well for this technique. We've got effectively 4 colours, and this is just a piece of scrap clay that happens to be quite a nice shade of blue. We have 3/4 ounce or 21 grams of apple green, and then 1/4 ounce or 7 grams of peppermint, brilliant blue and Windsor blue. And then I say this is just a bit of scrap clay, which is probably equal to about 1/3 ounce or 10 grams. We don't use this for the cane at all, but when I slice up the cane later and put it on a backing, this is the clay I'm going to use for the backing. So I'll put that on one side because with it being scrap clay it's already nicely conditioned. We need to condition all of our clays, and we're going to condition them in these amounts. I will condition all of the clay thoroughly and put it through on setting number 4 of my pasta machine because there's only small amounts that we're working with here, so we want to keep ourselves a decent size sheet to work with. I'm making quite a small cane, so just using small amounts. If you do like this technique, then obviously just double up the amounts to make yourself a larger cane. If you're unused to conditioning clay, I do have a little video with a few tips and techniques, and I will put a link to that in the video description below. And once the clay is all conditioned, we're going to start mixing Skinner blends in these 3 combinations. So I'll start and show you this one and get this one to the stage we need, and then once we've got that one, it's just a case of repeating exactly the same for this one and then this one. So setting number 4 gives us quite a nice size of sheet, and all I'm going to do, as with most Skinner blends, is cut diagonally through. Now I'm not going to cut right up to the corners because I want some of this green to show when we've done our Skinner blend. For anyone unused to doing Skinner blends, I do have a video again showing tips and techniques on that, and I will put a link to that below this video. So you just cut in diagonally across, put the two pieces on top of each other, and then either push them together or give a little roll. But because we're just going to go straight in and fold it up, you don't need to roll it too much if you don't want to. Now, we were on setting number 4, but because you now have 4 layers, I'm going to put it through on setting number 3, and as with all Skinner blends, fold first, collect, fold, put back through, collect, fold, until we have a nice graduation from the peppermint through to the apple green. So I will go and get that done on setting number 3 and bring you back when I have that. Once we have our blend completed, you can either cut it or fold it in half. Lay the two pieces on top of each other, and I'll put it back through the same setting, so setting number 3, blue end first, until I get a longer strip. And now we want to make it even longer still, so you can either go down one setting at a time, always putting through the blue end first, or if your machine's a good one and you know it's not going to shred your clay, then like me, you can put it straight down to your thinnest usable setting. So on my machine, that's setting number 9, and I say I'll put that through blue end first. And don't forget, if you're changing settings quite a long way from a large, thicker setting to a thin one, just turn the handle a couple of times clockwise. That'll help to clear any clay that has got clogged underneath. Once you've got your nice long thin strip, we are simply going to roll it up from the green end first, and we're going to do exactly the same for all 3 blends, always rolling from the colour that you used being the same colour in each of the blends. I'm not worried about it being thinner here, because as I roll I can stretch it wider, so that by the time it reaches here it's now the right size. So you always change the size of this bit rather than changing the size that you're rolling into, and just roll it carefully up, making sure you're not trapping any air as you go. And I'm not worried about any of these dirty bits because they will not show up in the finished piece. And there's our piece ready to go, and all we've got to do now is do exactly the same with the other 2 blends. When you've got all your blends done, hopefully they should be all the same height, and all we're going to do is we're going to chop down through the centre. So you want equal pieces if you can, so try and be even as you go down. And then I'm going to lay them down like this. And this is going to be the first part of the curls that we put into our cane. So take your roller, and what we're going to do, we are going to roll down that sort of area on our round, so not in the middle, up to one edge. And if you put them far enough apart so that you can actually roll each one individually, just press down and roll. So what you want to be left with is effectively a divot with a large piece on one side and a small piece on the other, and repeat that for all 6 pieces. Now, one piece at a time, where you've got the flat edge, just again curl it slightly over, and again do that for all 6 pieces. Now, I have neatened off the ends of my pieces. You don't need to do this for yours. The only reason I've done this is so that you can clearly see the big side and the little side, because how we put them together now makes a difference in the overall design. So we're going to start with our lightest piece, and you're always going to keep the green or the colour that you've mixed in all the Skinner blends to the bottom. So I'm going to start with big on this side, little on this side. Then I'm going to swap over, have the big on this side, and curl the little slightly round. So again, we're talking about more curls. For the next size up, the blue, then we're going to curl. I'm going to have the large on that side, and then I'm going to curl the small one down that way. And then on this one, we're going to have the large on that side and curl that one down. So it's going down like that. So we're effectively just stacking them on top of each other. You can turn over every so often to make sure you've got them right. And then for the dark ones, we've got the dark, the big one on that side, little one on there, and then the very top one, the big side goes there, and the little one goes down the bottom. So as you can see, almost like a pyramid of curled shapes, and that is our rough triangle that we're now going to force more into a triangle so that we start to get our cane working. So all you need to do is just press down and force it into a triangular shape. You don't want to go too large at this stage because we're about to put some more curls in. Okay, when you've got it to the stage that it's more or less a good triangle, we're going to start to put some more curls in this. So start with a piece where you've got your mid colour has just more or less gone down to reach the bottom. Take your roller and place your roller just up towards the edge of the piece, and all we're going to do is just pull up the topmost edge of that piece against the curved side of the roller. Now, not a huge amount, so you can see there, just enough. Then twist, release the roller, and then we're just going to very gently curl this over. So it's not a big curl, as you see, but it's just enough to give that sense of movement in the piece. So having done that one, and we curled it that way, turn it on its side and repeat. So you're always going in the same direction doing those curls. Now I will show you a pattern at the very end where if you don't do it that way, if you do it the other way around, you end up with a different pattern. And this is one of these things with this cane. Don't actually stress too much about whether it's going in the right direction or if you're doing it quite right, because if you've got the essential bits done, you will always get a nice pattern with this one. May not be the same as mine, but it will be a very nice pattern. And I love it when people experiment. So don't feel you have to do exactly the same as me. Just experiment and have fun with it. Okay, so that's the third side being done. So same thing, just a little bit of a curl over. And what you'll find is that pieces will have sort of like come slightly apart while you're doing that. So all we're going to do now is we're going to repress it down into that nice triangular shape. And we're going to press it down and we're going to pull it and we're going to reduce this till it's about 3 inches or 7.5 centimetres in length. Just very gently going backwards and forwards, creating a nice triangular shape. When you've got it to roughly the size you want, find your face, which has got your darkest colour and your mid colour. And what we're going to do, we're actually going to pull the cane up really quite to a sharp point here, all the way along, and then create a final curve. So start with, just literally pinch it up, no more than that, backwards and forwards with your fingers. It'll tend to sort of splay out and go larger, so just every so often, push it back in with your fingers. And we're really pulling that up to quite a nice sharp point. Let me show you on the side there. You can see it's going up and it's quite thin as well. Once you've got probably about 1 centimetre's worth, about sort of not quite half an inch, you're going to very gently, trying to keep it the same all the way along, just curl that edge over. So just give it a nice curl. Curl it under. So we're creating a little sort of spiral on the edge here. And we're looking to do 2 things when we do this. We're curling the edge to give ourselves an extra curl, but we're also increasing the amount of dark that's going to be on this side. Because that shows through in the finished piece. So making sure you've still got it nice and even on all those pieces. So it's about, say, 3 inches, 7.5 centimetres. Just chop through the middle. We're going to put it together so that the 2 light sides are in that middle piece and the darker bits are towards the top. Have a look at the bottom, make sure it's nicely joined in, and now you can see there's that lovely curl starting to come. So we want to make this side flat. So very gently, to keep that side nice and flat, we're just going to press down, concentrating on this bit, and let this piece automatically curl and flatten itself on the bottom. So put that piece flat on your tile, and say very gently, just very gently start to move those sides down. Until you've got something that's virtually flat on the bottom. We can now start to reduce this in a right angled cane if we can. So you can see at the moment we've more or less got a right angle here. If you find reducing it in a right angle in this way is difficult, then simply reduce it as an ordinary triangular cane and then reshape it once you've put it together in a square shape. Because what we're going to do is we're going to reduce this down until again we have about 3 inches. 7.5 centimetres. We then cut it in two and put it together to form a square cane, which will be our finished piece. And when you put it together, you get this lovely, rich pattern for your cane. As before, make sure that both top and bottom marry up, and because I'd sort of concentrated on it being a fairly good right angled cane, I have got a more or less a square cane already. If yours is more of a diamond shape, then simply press it in at the tops till you get more of a square shape. And now we're going to reduce this down in the square shape, and we're going to reduce it till, on my measuring sheet, it's about 3 of these small squares, so it's about 3/4 inch, or just under 2 centimetres across each of these sides. Once I get close to the size I want, I will start doing it on the measuring sheet, looking over the top very carefully so that I can see that it's the right size. Once it's close enough that I'm nearly there, I will just, with my thumb and finger, go down every corner just to sharpen off those points, because as you know from my previous videos, it makes such a difference if you've got nice sharp corner edges when you're trying to put kaleidoscoped pieces together, which is what we're about to do with this cane. Having gone down each corner, simply give it a roll to flatten out any finger marks you might have put in. And recheck the sizing. Cut through the distorted end, pick it up, and you'll start to see the pattern we are going to get. So what I'm going to do now, you can leave it to rest if you're good and patient, because I'm doing a video and because I'm never patient. I'm going to take 16 slices and then we're going to start putting it together to form our kaleidoscope pattern. So I'll put it back down on my measuring sheet, keep it nice and square, and then cut slices. So my slices will probably be about 2 millimeters thick. It's much more important to be consistent in your slicing than in trying to get them really, really thin. And as I said before, we've got this scrap clay here, which once I've cut the slices, we're going to lay it on the scrap clay to make it easy as well. So I'll put this scrap clay through, make sure it's really nicely conditioned, but put it through on setting number 6, so quite a thin setting, because it's just acting as a layer underneath to give me flexibility. If you want a piece that's going to be double-sided for the pattern, then obviously cut yourself thicker slices and you won't need any of the scrap clay to put underneath. So I have all my slices cut, so the rest of the cane can go away, and I've also got my sheet of scrap clay on just this little baking parchment sheet, just so I can easily manoeuvre it and fold it, and when I put the slices on. So I've cut the slices all with the cane exactly in place. Now this means obviously they will have moved down slightly, so it'll become more oblong than square towards the end, but it makes putting them together easier when we're doing the kaleidoscope than if we rotate each time. So it's your choice, depends what you want to do. But because I've got them exactly as I have left them with the cane not having been turned, I know I can pick 2 slices up and straight away mirror them so that they will match. So they're going to sit together there. The next two, exactly the same. Open them up and they will match exactly, so they can sit right next to those two, just there. And to make sure I've got nice straight lines, when I put my next piece, I'm going to take the blunt end of the polymer clay blade, keeping your fingers well away from the sharp bit, and just use that just to make sure that's a relatively neat flat edge. So the next two, same thing, open out, but this time flip them upside down. And they should match up. Same again, open out, but flip upside down. And match up. And continue doing that, making sure that each row is nice and flat by using that blunt end of your blade until you've got all 16 slices nicely put together. Okay, a couple of extra points for you here. If you have a piece that's particularly thin, try putting it towards the outside if you can. If you have a piece that's very thick, and I made sure I cut some pieces of different sizes to show you because this happens so much, it's very difficult to then push that level with the pieces that are next to it. So rather than do that, take your blade and very carefully simply shave it off. And now it's much easier to push those pieces together. So all we're going to do is very slowly and carefully, with the edge of our cable needle, just roll very gently over where the joins are. There are loads of other ways of joining slices together, but I've always found this needle the easiest way, or it gives me more control than most of the others, and I can actually manoeuvre the clay and keep it as neat as I can as it goes. I will tend to do all the ones going in one direction first. And then turn it round and do the ones going along the other way. Anywhere I find where the slices are very uneven, so it makes it difficult to put them together, then I'll do is just as we did previously and simply shave a piece off until I've got a nice flat surface. So I will continue doing that and bring you back when we're done. Once you've gone all along the seams, then with a nice clean roller, simply roll right over the whole piece. Turn it round, roll again, diagonally from corner to corner until you've got the piece that's lovely and flat. With my blade, I will just press in and neaten up the edges. Take away the scrap clay. So there we go, it's all about the curl, pattern complete. And I think you'll agree it gives a really nice sort of rounded shape. Adding all those extra bits and pieces in just gives the curves and the curl that create the pattern, as well as having that nice diamond background. So I said I'll show you a couple of other variations, as always. This one, the colour I used, rather than the apple green through all, I used the lemon yellow throughout, and then I mixed one bit with tangerine, one bit with gold, and one bit with the ruby red. And on this one I used lilac as the colour throughout. I added one bit with raspberry, one bit with a mix between the plum and the royal violet, and one again with the Windsor blue, which really made it stand out because there was a lot of difference there obviously between the Windsor blue and the darker shade in there. I also said I'd show you the difference if you don't add all the curves in. This version is the one where I did remember when we did the curls over the top, and I said if you do them the other way round you get a different look. This is how it came out doing it the other way round. So you've still got the nice diagonal, but you haven't quite got the same sort of round curves in the middle. But again, a nice pattern. And this one was again done with the lilac throughout, but done with, starting from the darkest, the royal violet, then the plum, and then this was a mixture of the Indian red with a little bit of tangerine in with it. So that's it. That's the tutorial finished, and I hope you go on to use this one and create lots of different wonderful things using this as a veneer for your pieces. As always, thank you so much for watching, and for those of you who subscribe, I really do appreciate it, so a special thank you for you. That's it for now. That's that one finished. Hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye for now. Bye.